Hey, what's up guys, Code Desk here. Welcome back to the Python channel. And in today's tutorial, I'm going to be talking about conditionals and essentially why they're helpful and how we can use them. So just some quick intro into conditionals. In Python, conditionals are just if, elif, and else statements. And these statements essentially just allow you to add logic to your code, right? So now let's get more in depth into conditionals. So why are conditionals helpful? Well, conditionals allow you to implement logic into your code. This results in more sophisticated programs, such as games or even like machine learning algorithms. And overall, these pieces of code, these snippets of code, allow decision making into your programs. So what I mean by this is, let's start off with an example. So let's say you have $5 and you're walking down a road, and that road splits into two paths, right? You have path A, and then you have path B. Now to enter path A, you need $10. To enter path B, you need $2. And now you have $5. So which one can you choose? Well, since you only have $5, you can't go to path A, right? Since 10 is greater than 5, and you can't really fulfill that requirement. However, B requires only $2 and 5 is greater than 2. Therefore, you can enter path B. Now, this was a very simple example of a decision-making process that you can implement in Python very simply. And even in like real-life problems, this isn't that big of a deal. But if you're working on more like sophisticated programs that need more complex conditionals, well, then it's not going to look as easy as this. So let's get right into the code and let's start off with some other examples. Okay, so let's hop on into the program. So for this, I'm going to be using PyCharm, which is like the perfect Python IDE. However, you can use any IDE that you want. The code's going to run fine as long as you have Python installed and your configuration is right. So again, this is a beginner series, so I'm not going to be doing anything too complicated, but the examples are going to give you an idea of like what conditionals are and how you can use them in programs such as like making a calculator or even like other programs that require a bit more thinking. However, you can get to that on your own. It's fairly simple, not too complicated. Again, these are conditionals, nothing to be scared about. So let's get right into it. So let's say you want to check which number is even and which number is odd, right? So let's say I have a num, and let's say this num is 50, right? Now we know 50 is a positive number. I mean, it's a positive and an even number. But you want to write code. Like, let's say you don't know what num is, and you want to write a code, a program that can figure out if that number is even or if it's not, right? So for this, what we're going to do is, if you remember from the arithmetic video where I talked about like the modulo operator, the division operator, well, we're going to use the modulo operator for this program. So let's say if we do, so this is how it's going to work. So if we have if num modulo 2 equals 0, oops, what just happened there? Equals 0, then we're going to print num is even, else num, we're going to print num is not even. So how does this work? Well, if you remember, the modulo operator checks for remainders, right? So an even number, if you divide any number by 2, right, and the remainder is 0, well, then it's an even number, right? 2 goes into that number perfectly. There are no remainders. It's an even number, right? And now, let's say we didn't know what num was, and now we were writing this program. We've written this piece of conditional, and now we can run this, and let's see what we get. We get num is even, right? That works. However, let's say if this was like, I don't know, 11, right? So 11 divided by 2, right? You're gonna have a remainder of 1. So essentially, in this case, this line of code is gonna run. So it's going to say num is not even, and yep, that is right. Now let's write a code where we also use the elif statement. So here I'm just going to rewrite this. So I'm going to say a is equal to 10, b is equal to 5, right? And now I'm going to do if a is greater than 5, if a is greater than b, then I'm going to print a is greater than b, right? Elif if a is not greater than b, so if a is less than b, then I'm going to print a is less than b. Else, I'm going to print if it's not greater than or if it's not less than, then it has to be equal to b, right? Print a is equal to b. So, knowing a and b, obviously the first statement is going to run, right? So if we do this, we get a is greater than b. Okay, that's perfect. Now let's say we change a to like 2. In this case, it's going to be the second line, the second condition. And for the last one, let's say if it's 5, then obviously the last condition is going to run and a is equal to b. Now, that's all right, but however, in Python, there's something cool that happens. So let's say let's make a 6, right? Let's make a 6. Actually, no. You know what? I'm going to have a third variable called c, and I'm going to make this 4, and I'm going to replace this with a is greater than c, right? So now watch what happens. You just change this, and then c, right? Now if we do this, watch what happens. We get a is greater than b and a is greater than c. And now why is that? So in Python, essentially, if you have two if statements, right next to each other, you have if statement on line 5, then if statement on line 6, line 7, and the first if statement is true, right? It's true. It's going to print out a is greater than b, and then it moves on to the next if statement. It checks again, and if that is true again, it's going to print out the second statement. Now you can see how problematic that can be in like situations, because then you might get two outputs that really you don't want. You only want one of them. That's why the if elif statement is helpful. In the elif statement, if you run this, we're only going to get the first statement. So what this means, what this essentially is doing that, it checks for the first statement, and the first statement is obviously greater than is true, right? So at that point, if the first statement is true and the second statement is an elif statement, it just does not even bother, because essentially you're not going to have an elif statement unless you want your first statement to be false, right? You know what that hopefully that's clear, because if your first statement is going to be true, then why would you have an elif statement, right? That's why if the first statement is true, it's not even going to bother checking the second statement or anything after that. It's done. Like, the first statement is it, and then it just prints out the first statement. And yeah, guys, that's essentially it. That's essentially it for this tutorial. Conditionals are fairly simple, and remember, this is a beginner's tutorial, so I didn't do anything too complicated. I talked about the even and odd situation, and I also talked about like 3 expressions right next to each other: the if, elif, and the else statement. And yeah, just remember to hit that subscribe and like button. See you guys next time.